Hey y'all, welcome back to Convos with Bree. I'm Bree, BREE, and today is day 80 of the Visibility Challenge. Today I wrote a reflection called The Fight I Didn't Know I Was Having. And it's it's so wild. This part of the journey that I have been on has been so eye-opening, so life-changing. It's just been really cool. And when I was first changing the way I responded, the way that I was thinking, and I was coming into this new level of awareness, I really struggled to see the good in it. It was like I would start to catch my footing and then I would just slip out of nowhere. I could not seem to keep my feet on the ground in this level of awareness. And so I would start to understand and apply, but then I would find myself slipping out of it, slipping back into any old coping mechanisms that I had. So I would find myself constantly back in the chaos and the confusion and the this doesn't feel good, the overwhelm. And I couldn't quite connect where this overwhelm was coming from. But I kept trying to find an outside source that needed me to change it, something that needed me to say, oh, this shouldn't be in my life anymore. That's where the block is. But this was the first time that I was really stepping into this new awareness that it's always me. There's always something I could do to change something about the situation. And it's funny because not so long ago, there wasn't a version of me that could even begin to grasp this because I had so many examples locked and loaded of where it was all out of my control, where there was absolutely nothing that I could do to make this better. And I was full of grief. I was full of deep emotion. Emotion had taken full control over my experience here. And I just could not see a way out. But then I started really entertaining this idea that everything is changeable within. And I started to really broaden my perspective. And anytime I felt triggered, anytime I felt heated or emotional in a way that I could not control, I really started looking at where I was losing sight of where I wanted the conversation to go. Where were my emotions coming in and making it impossible for me to have a choice in it anymore? I didn't need to find exactly where I couldn't control it anymore. I needed to know where that was to be able to be aware of what I was doing. But now I was in a deeper space. Now I had to look at where was I aware before I allowed myself to admit that I was aware that things were going off the rails. Where did I catch myself the very first moment that I went, ooh, I felt that. That bothered me. And then I let it slide because that was the part that I needed to be more aware of. That is where I needed to spend my time, because if I could start being aware sooner, before that moment took over where now I'm just out of control, I'm too upset, I'm too emotional, I can't have a logical conversation anymore. And the person that I'm in this conversation with is typically also now in this space of escalation of emotions. And neither one of us are able to lead from a cohesive place. So we're setting ourselves up to do damage unless somebody can bring it back onto the rails. Typically, it leaves with both people just shutting down, checking out, in my experience. But if I could find where I was getting to, like, the very first place that I was like, oh, that bothered me, then I could do something different. I could change something deeper than what I was understanding when I first started doing this. So I started looking more closely and I started paying attention to the opportunities, y'all. That's the thing. I didn't view any argument as an opportunity to do something better. I viewed every argument as an annoying place to be. Like, I didn't want to be here. I didn't want this to be happening. Let's move it along. But it was testing me. It was an opportunity to show who I am showing up as now, how I handle these disagreements, how I handle these uncomfortable spaces. I couldn't show that I was changing. I couldn't try anything. I couldn't apply anything if I wasn't even showing up to the opportunity. I was saying that I wanted opportunities to change, but then I was completely closing my mind off to receiving opportunities. So they still came, but I was just sliding back into old habits and getting stuck deeper in this loop of frustration and annoyance and anger and hurt and all of these things that I was feeling, because I would not allow myself the space to catch it before it was already too late. So I couldn't change anything. I just got more and more and more aware that I was trying, but that it felt impossible. And that just made it feel more impossible. And it was more aggravation, more of that frustration, until I felt like I was crushed beneath the weight of it. So then by that point, I could wake up and just feel that, ugh, an argument's probably going to happen today. So now I'm waking up with this energy. So now anything is going to set it off to prove that this is true, because that's what our unconscious energy does. It's searching for truth about our real, actual, raw, uninhibited beliefs. You can tell yourself and pretend all you want, but that's where it comes out. You're looking for truth about what you believe day after day after day. So here I was looking for proof that an argument was going to happen. Something was going to push me into feeling the way that I did not want to be feeling. I was asking to change this. I was begging and pleading with life to help me change this, to give me some easier lessons. But I was missing the mix. I was missing that life was giving me a little bit of everything, because I was so focused on everything overwhelming me and everything that I was bracing for. And then I started to really dive into this area because I raised my awareness. And then I started catching the patterns a little faster and a little quicker. And then I was able to have control over the conversations. I was able to say, okay, you're shutting down because you're you're not in a place where you can receive anything that this person is trying to say to you. So it's in everyone's best interest to take a beat, because being on the other side for that person talking to me, it's a wall. Nothing is coming through here. They're wasting their breath, they're wasting their words. And if if I'm feeling to the point where I'm shut down, they've probably used so many words that were their language and not mine. And I'm viewing everything as an attack. So until we get some space, my side won't change because I am in full defense mode now. I am feeling the attack. And until I can get away from that for a moment and get back into just my own energy, that's where I can center myself. I can check myself back in. I can think about what's happening and look at it from where I can do better on my side, where I may be like taking things too personally or not actually hearing them and making it about me. I can dissect it all, but I can't do that in the moment. So I used to just walk away, and then that's not nice either. We have to be able to communicate what is happening. Hey, nobody is in trouble. Nothing is bad. I just feel like you gave me a lot of information and I need to process in my own energy before I can continue this conversation. And so it's important that when you take your time, you truly come back to it as well. And that was a hard one for me also, because I struggle with time even being real. Time just, I run on energy, not on time as much as possible. And so sometimes I say 5 minutes, but I don't really need 5 minutes. I need like a half an hour. Or sometimes I say an hour and I only needed 2 minutes. But I'm constantly acknowledging that and trying to get better at that and being empathetic to a person who on the other side who may need that, because they have their own experiences, they have their own hard things, and I am not ever trying to make things harder on them either. I'm just trying to reach a space where we both understand that we are both working towards a solution, and we're trying to be courteous to each other and keep each other in the loop as much as possible so that we can both get what we need. It's so funny because this all sounds so simple when you say just breathe or just take a beat or oh, just, pay attention to where this is happening. But the thing is, it's not easy. It's not easy at all. I think of this the same way that I do any other tool, trade, job, whatever thing you are trying to learn in life. You don't just decide, I want to learn another language, and then you learn it. You go through such a process of learning, of stumbling, of picking the wrong words, of saying the wrong words, of using an offensive language when you were trying to say something totally non-offensive. You go through all these emotions and feelings and things that make you scared and make you want to quit. But if you can continue and get past the part that's uncomfortable, you get fluent in this other language and you feel good and you can use it. But until we actually try and apply and fail, we can't get used to the discomfort. We can't get used to the flow. We can't really get into it. So when I say, we take a breath, we pause, we do all of these things, we start to be more aware, we look deeper at where we could have caught it faster. You're sharpening your skill set. You are finding your best way to a peaceful life. You're finding what works for you, what doesn't work for you. This isn't just like okay, got it, overnight thing. This is something that you hone your skill in. You really apply energy to changing, to doing things differently, to being aware of patterns and what is real, what is present, what is actually happening right now in the moment, not what happened 10 years ago, what you did in your dream, what you would do. No, this is what you presently do right now. And that's when you can start to say, is who I am aligning with what I say I want, with what I say I'm working towards, with what I am building, with what I am presently in? Do my thoughts align with my beliefs about myself? And finding awareness quicker, finding what I can change within allowed me to really stop begging life to make things easier on me. It made me able to see that I was getting good things, I was getting bad things, I was getting hard things, I was getting easy things. I was everywhere, but I was only focusing on the negatives, and I was only viewing them as a negative. And then I started realizing how I talk to myself. And how I talk to myself is very much how I am when I am triggered by somebody else. And then I started realizing all of the places that I am triggering myself. I am being too hard on myself. I am beating myself up. I am bracing for the next bad thing because I truly believe that my life will be full of these bad, hard things. And instead of focusing on how beautifully I've handled every hard moment in my life, how I've risen on every occasion and done something absolutely beautiful and connective with it, I am looking at where I am most likely going to fail, where I will most likely be hurt, where I will not be good enough, where I will fall short. I was holding myself back. I was triggering myself. I was looking for truth. And I was playing a role in these arguments because they were proving my beliefs. They were proving things I didn't even know I felt about myself to be true. And that's upsetting because I didn't want it to be true. I didn't want the validation that it was. And yet that was all I was seeking. And then you are aware. And then you can never unsee this pattern that you have been doing. And then you can start to understand it and find empathy for yourself, kindness, start treating yourself with more care, more intentionally. And you understand why. You understand that you are very deserving of love. You are very deserving of all of these wonderful things that happen. You're allowed to change your perception of self, your perspective of the world around you. You are allowed to be whoever you want to be. And that's what I realized during all of this was that healing didn't begin for me when life got quieter. I didn't need anything to begin this journey. I just honestly needed to convince my nervous system that I was a safe space to land. I had to build the world that I've wanted to build for everyone else, for myself first. Because I needed to understand it more deeply. I needed to feel it within. And that's how things come to life. That's how we give it energy. We literally live it to life. All right, y'all. That is day 80. And don't forget that if you pop on over to Convos with Bree because you want to read the reflection, the fight I didn't know I was having, if you haven't already, you can subscribe to the website and I will send you over my very first pattern map. I'm so proud of it. I love it so much. And I would love to hear what you think. I would love if you use it when you are struggling and it gets you through. I would absolutely adore that as much as I got a tea set. If you're watching the video, you can see. And I got this 4 set of these little cups and they're adorable. And I love to drink coffee out of them. I put my cold brew coffee in there and it makes me feel real fancy and real fun. And that's just a reminder that you can do whatever you want. You can drink your cold brew out of a tea set if you want to, y'all. You can record, you can write, you can draw, you can dance, you can paint, you can dream. You can do whatever it is that your heart is set on. And the more you try, the more you just don't give up, the more of that version of yourself you become. The better you feel, the quieter the internal world gets in the most magnificent way. It's fun here. Are you having fun? Are you having fun in your world? If you're not, pop on over to convoswithbree.com. I would love to have a one-on-one with you about that because we should all be having fun. All right, y'all. I am out of here. Let's remember that this day is yours. Be here now and remember that nothing that is meant for you will miss you.